Okay, and I am so happy to introduce Debbie Johansson. Debbie is our transition specialist with United Angels Foundation. If you have met with Debbie, you know how knowledgeable and how caring she is, and just a wonderful person, and really, really great. She's an expert at all of these transition topics, including DSPD. If you have not met with Debbie for a consultation, I highly suggest that you reach out to her or to me, and I'll connect you guys, but we'll have Debbie's email up at the end of the presentation here. The transition to adulthood consultation is not just a one-time meeting. We help you through the whole process and follow up. It's a free service for United Angels
Paperwork is
Foundation
13
members.
pages.
So if you are not a United Angels Foundation member, you are welcome to join. We have free membership, and part of that membership includes access to all of our programs and services, including Debbie's service that's also free. So Debbie, I will turn this over to you and I'll start the screen share.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for being here today with me. I think our biggest purpose today is to cut through this application and get her done. One of the first things, I'll just chat for a minute before we start writing on your applications if you have them. But I thought maybe I should just say, what is DSPD and why do we need it? DSPD provides no cash. It doesn't have cash to you unless you're getting caregivers compensation, which has just been during the CARES Act. But typically in non-COVID times, it's a budget on paper, and you can spend that budget in one of two ways. You can hire the people you want to do the things you want, where you want, and when and how you want. The other method of using your DSPD funding is to hire a provider, which is a company that provides that service. A lot of families have thought, oh, I don't want the government to be involved and take my kid and put him in a care center. To me, DSPD is the absolute opposite of that. It puts you in the driver's seat. You get to decide when, where, how, if ever, and at what level of need you need. It's completely puts you in charge of how the services go. It is not taking your rights away. Some of the services that there are pages and pages of services, but some of the services often used is the respite, which is providing good, safe care while you're doing other things, working, spending time with family members, date night, grandchildren, whatever. Day services, this is a quick rundown. Day services is somewhere to go when there's no more school. Personal assistance is a little more out and about in the community. I call them buddies just because my daughter with disabilities, this is her life, and I like it to be as typical as a average young adult or young, whatever the age of your child is, how their life would look. So I would call my employees buddies. It just was a little more user friendly. And the personal assistant can take her, when she was in high school, they would go to the football games together, or movie night, or go bowling together, or just hang out and watch a movie. Doing things out and about is how I think of personal assistance. DSPD also assists with supported employment long-term, even after voc rehab pulls out. And my daughter is now doing supported living, which I can hire or have a company, but I hire who I want. Supported living is where they can live anywhere in your home, in their own apartment, with roommates, with another sibling. However you want it to look, you get to decide. And it's a little more support than respite. And it is to help promote them to participate in the community and home, and lead self-determined lives. So in a very short nutshell, that's what DSPD is. The reason we thought we would kind of put this together in a rather quick way is because there are some funding coming from the federal government to all the states, and depending on the Utah state legislators, how they want to match that, we may get some action on the DSPD wait list. So the new fiscal year for the state begins July 1st. And I thought it would be awesome if we could get as many on the wait list, because ideally the wait list could be funded. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts about it and how the legislators want to vote. And it's actually being discussed as we speak in between the committees at the Capitol. So if you'd like to email your representatives, let them know that you feel that DSPD would be very helpful and to try to fund the wait list. I think that would be fabulous. But I would feel really bad if they were able to fund the wait list and we didn't put a call out to, hey, if you've been putting it off, this would be a good time to do it before July 1st. But it does take a little bit of time, so don't wait to the night before. All right, I think we're on to step one, Sylvia, if that's okay. She's so kind to do this. So the first thing you need to do, even before the paper application, is to make a cute little fast phone call to the DSPD intake line. It is, they're nice people. A different person mans the intake line each day. I know most of them. We're on pretty good terms, so you're welcome to say, Debbie said, and they'll probably go, oh yeah, most of them. I may not know all of them, but most of them. And all they're going to ask you is the name and address, and probably what is your child's disability. There are 7 different criterias, and most often it's intellectual disability. You don't have to sit and explain to them in detail on this first little short 1-minute phone call all about your child. You don't need to convince them. You can just say intellectual disability or autism. That's it. You don't have to explain all of their behaviors or all of the things, because they're not really decision makers at this point. They're just getting contact information. So if you could flip to the next Form 1-1, maybe. So Form 1-1 is pretty simple, little guy. And you must make this phone call. They will, after the phone call, they will give you, I would say, to shorten the time, ask them to please email you this form. And this is not the application. This is actually the application to get the application. I'm not kidding. That's really what it is. And you ask them to email it to you, because if you don't, they will snail mail it in several weeks. So to kind of push it forward a little quicker, ask them to email it. You just sign it, just verifying all the things you told them on the phone. And I would scan and email it back. The address, the email address is right on there, dspdintake@utah.gov. It should only take you a minute. Once you email that back into them, you can go ahead. They will, they're okay to send you the application, but we have given it to you here. So you don't have to wait to fill it out, but you must do that first phone call. And I could not give you this form online, because your form, after you call, will have an assigned number on the bottom left that they will assign to your case. So I'm not able to assign a number to your case. So that's why I didn't provide that with the rest of the application. So Form 1-1 is the application to get the application. All right, let's go on. There's how it's going to look. There's the address of where to send it to. It's very simple. I prefer to not at the top, it's the applicant's information. The top left is your child's name. I don't want anybody calling my child. So I leave home phone, work phone, cell phone out. I put that information down at the bottom box, the contact person. Because if you put your child's phone number, they're going to call your child, which I wouldn't work for us. So that's the way it's going to look. Let's go on. The next section is the 4-page social history, and with your pen in hand, and if you've got it in front of you, we'll go ahead and go through it. My idea is to get this done, and you're going to feel awesome. So this is the 4-page intake social history. The box number 1 is your child's information. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's nice to know if they can speak or sign, and usually you don't need a translator. The physical address is important, of course. And then number 3, I just write same, if it's the same as your physical address. I've talked to these intake workers. They don't want hard to read, intricate writing and long stories. They want to just kind of browse through it, see if it's all there, and call it good. So don't sweat too much and don't write more than you have to. Make it simple for them to kind of go through. And if the applicant number 4, the applicant's phone number and email, again, my personal thought is I don't want them calling my daughter. Even your child may not, or maybe too young to have their own phone. So I leave that blank. Number 5 is you. It is you live with the applicant, relationship, mother, father. At the bottom, are you the applicant's legal or court appointed legal guardian? This would only apply if they're over 18. I would usually write no if you're not, yes if you have been in front of a judge. If they are a minor, you don't even have to, just put NA for not applied. They're under 18, so you are their legal guardian. But they're talking about, have you been before a judge to do guardianship, which is a whole nother webinar. So I don't think there's anything there. There are 3 boxes to number 5. They're identical. So I usually put myself as the first, maybe husband, father. The 3rd box is just another contact, grandma, aunts, someone. I was on the committee that wrote this application. Why do you need so many contact people? Apparently they lose people. So they want someone who does not live with you for the 3rd box. So there's the 3 boxes to number 5. They're identical. Number 6, where do they go to school? Type of school, elementary, post-secondary, no school. I would put your teacher. Homeschool could be homeschool. Contact would be the teacher and a phone number. They should have written a phone number there. Number 7, if your child has worked for pay, meaning that they have had taxes taken out, it's minimum wage or better, then you could fill that out. Otherwise, I would put a gigantic NA across number 7 if it does not apply. The 3rd page is still part of number 7. Has he received, I'll say he, has he received supported employment? You would know if you are part of voc rehab or not, so it'd be either yes or no. But the second part is the applicant seeking employment. Put yes, because this is part of the Employment First initiative, which means they're going to give priority for those who hope to work someday. It doesn't matter if they can walk or talk. All you need to say is, I hope they can work someday. They're going to need supports, a lot of supports. That's why we're doing DSPD. But yes, we hope someday they can do a little job. That will move you up on the list just by saying yes there. The third part of that is, does the applicant currently have an open case with voc rehab? It's either yes or no. Sometimes I'll write off to the side, in progress, meaning I'm serious about this. I'm gonna call them. So you can add a little note there, in progress. Should I keep going about this speed? Are we all okay? Any questions? That was all pretty normal stuff. All right, number 8. I just lost the screen, doggone. There we go. Number 8 is really important. Remember that DSPD, Division of Services for People with Disabilities, I forgot to, and you have to practice saying that because it doesn't roll off your tongue. They are not, you will get services by not how long you have waited, but by what your critical need is. Here is your chance to show your critical need. So you don't want to lie, but you don't want to, if you say, oh, we're fine, we have no areas or problems, we're fine, you will never get services. So you have to kind of dig deep. Life is hard when you're trying to raise a family with a child with disabilities. So this is unfortunately one of those times that we have to look at those deficits and things that are not quite the same as our other children and be brutally honest, then take a shower and don't think that way anymore, because we can't live thinking about all the deficits constantly. So this is just for a minute. Behavior, I like to try to put receiving, you want to show them you need help. So I would write behavior, are you receiving support? No. Do you need support? Yes. And then they have a little box. I just had a conversation with one of the intake workers. I was doing this beautiful addendum for these. I would just write across see addendum, and I would type up a separate page describing all of the problems and behavior and so on. And she said, Debbie, you don't need to do that. Just write a few general, significant, but general things about behavior that will let them know that this is an area, a problem, and that you do need services. For those who just really don't know what to write there, I've done a cheat sheet where I've listed all the things that families have listed in the behavioral, because sometimes you can't think right this second of every single problem. So if you need a little help writing what the problems are, can't think of anything, I have a cheat sheet for you to look at. I would stay away from mental health too much, because if mental health is the main disability, you're not going to get DSPD. So mental health is like depression, bipolar, that type of diagnosis. They don't do mental health. Now, if your child has, my daughter has cerebral palsy, say that with that comes depression, you can write that in, but don't make mental health the main disability or you won't get it. Medical health related, I find there's, If they have health insurance, I feel like I need to be honest and write that's support, but maybe you feel like that's not enough support. So you just have to answer that the way you need. But do you need support? Yes. And then you can write down, that's a good place to write autism, whatever their diagnosis is. That would be a good place to write that diagnosis. Usually substance abuse is receiving support, no. Need support, no, typically. Safety, that was my idea. I wanted that on the application because I don't know of a family that is not concerned about their child's safety and vulnerability and those types of things. So I would say receiving support, no. Need support, you bet. And then write the things, you know, would he run in the street? Would he not be able to stand up for himself? Would he be taken advantage of? Is he vulnerable? And again, if you need a little more thought there, I have a cheat sheet. I would use things about your family. Is there only one caretaker? Is there unemployment? Does mom need to work but can't for the care of, is there financial struggle? Things about the caregiver could go under other pretty easily. So those are some ideas. That number 8, you don't have to put every word in there. Don't make it a story or sentences, make it bullet point. Just quick little, because all of these will be covered again verbally over a phone. So don't sweat too many bullets. If you spend too much more than an hour on all of this, you've spent too long, because you will have the opportunity to speak in person, to clarify anything you want to add. Number 9, it's either yes or no.
I just have a quick question about number 8, Debbie.
Yes.
So I kind of filled this out with you a long time ago.
Yeah.
But it says see copy on there. So
okay, just
what would that be? What copy of that would that be?
I would type it up for you, or you could type it up. You probably this is Aaliyah's mom, right?
Yes.
We can do that together, or you can white out and just put your own in there if you don't want to type up an addendum. That's what I was previously doing, but I was told I was working too hard at it.
Okay.
So you may not have to work as hard as I was when I was adding addendums and making it a book. You don't need to.
Okay.
I was kind of mocking that it was just such a small area to write in, but they really don't want long stories. Okay. So just abbreviate it like bullet points. You can add an additional paper, but if you do add an additional paper, write their name and their date of birth and include it directly following this 4-page social history, so it doesn't displace from it.
Maybe it would just be easier to see the cheat sheet.
Okay, yeah, a lot of families like that, because it's just really hard to just sit down. Okay, now write down every problem you have. That's just a little hard to do. You need to put some thought into it. And I don't want families to struggle and agonize over it. You don't need to.
So how can we get the cheat sheet from you?
Give me a call.
Okay.
I don't know, Sylvia, if I could put Debbie's cheat sheet on sometime, I can do that too. You won't have everything. Not every child. I've got listed, 20 things under each of those areas. I just thought it helps jiggle your thinking of, oh yeah, that's my child too. So you just take a highlighter pen and kind of highlight and then put it in your own words. Don't send in my cheat sheet.
Right.
But that's number 8's kind of the trickiest, because you have to think of the deficits. And I just hate to see families struggle on that. So again, we could even do it over the phone. We can do
Okay,
it, or just email me and I will forward you my cheat sheet for number 8 so that you don't agonize over it.
okay, great, thank you.
Can I ask a question as well?
Yes.
If we are currently receiving support, so our son is currently in early intervention. He graduates next month from that, but we also pay for some out-of-pocket like therapies and that kind of thing. Would we mark that we are currently receiving support? He's autistic, so we do, you know, ABA therapy and a couple of other things. Some of it is insurance and some of it isn't. So
I would put, yes, you're receiving supports, and yes, you need supports.
okay, thank you.
That's a good one. Can we go back to the previous one where it says school? You kind of made me think back to number where it says school. Keep going right there. Number 6. I forgot to do the sentences below that number 6 box. When you said he is receiving early intervention, either does or doesn't. So yes or no. Does he receive a special ed? So if he has an IEP, it would be yes. If your child is an infant and you have no clue, I mean, when he's going to graduate, typically it's not at 18. It is the semester after they turn the age 22, if they stay in services, which oftentimes that's the case. Sorry, I missed that. Thanks for reminding me, Megan.
Oh, sure.
So I had a question about number 6 too.
Okay.
So right now I have her high school in there, but she is going to A-Tech. So does it need to be A-Tech on there instead?
Yes, right, A-Tech, and that is a post-secondary school, and the contact information, put my name for A-Tech. I'm the
Okay.
transition specialist at A-Tech as well.
What do I put for the type of school?
Post-secondary.
Okay.
I have a question. I'm guardian over my brother who's 24. If he's no longer in school, and he hasn't been since he was 18, do I submit an IEP, his old IEP, or do I just put his last school?
I would, it does say list the current or last school attended. If you have the most recent IEP, that would be lovely. If you don't have it, you don't have it. We just have to move forward without it. But if you have it, that would be good, because that would show that he did receive special education. So an IEP, if you have it, would be terrific.
Okay, and then I had a question about number 8 for the health history.
Yes.
If he is fetal alcohol, and he has autism, fetal alcohol, Tourette's, OCD, and then ADHD, do I list all that?
I would, but don't, when you make that first phone call to the intake line, all the OCD, Tourette's, those are not eligibility criteria. That will not, those are other conditions, and they're certainly problematic, definitely. But the areas that make him eligible are intellectual disability, cerebral palsy, autism, epilepsy, brain injury. Physical disability, they have to have the loss of movement in 2 of their limbs. Other conditions are the things that don't fit anywhere else.
Yeah,
So
and
we
he's
don't even list other conditions, but it is actually part of it.
okay, because yeah, he has bipolar too. So
Be careful, be careful of the bipolar stuff. They don't do mental health.
Right. So we should just put autism on this then.
Yes. Well,
Okay.
And under the medical section, you might, if you have that many things, you may want to write an addendum and start listing those. You could.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. All right. We're on number 7. I believe. No, we did number 7. We're going to go all the way to number 9. They either had a brain injury or not. Use of medical or specialized equipment could be a G-tube. I've even braces, not braces on your teeth, but leg braces, CPAPs, hard equipment, I guess you could say. Have they been in the hospital in the last year? They don't care about 5 years ago, just in the last year. We're on the last page, page 4.
Is that any reason in the hospital? Like
Overnight stay.
put in their ear overnight. Okay.
Yeah. Overnight stay. Although, if you have something you want them to know, I'd write it down anyway. If something, is really making you uncomfortable and you just feel like they should know it, then I would write it down. But be careful to not get, he has a cold, he has a flu, they don't want the little things. You got to be careful to make it not average, like everybody has a cold, everybody gets tubes in there. It's not everybody, but you know what I mean. You have to make a good judgment that you're showing a critical need. So kind of keep that word in your mind, is don't list things that are not critical, I guess is a good way to say it. Number 12, an ICF is a nursing care facility. Most often that's no and no. Number 13, oftentimes that's just a big fat NA across. Unless it's not, then you would list who in that agency is your person that you talk to. Number 14 is important. You would want to list a doctor. They say school reps, but put a doctor. Put a doctor that knows the most about your child's disability. Doctors don't have emails, so don't worry about that one. So just like a pediatrician, a neurologist, whatever specialist, sometimes there isn't. Sometimes they just go to a pediatrician and just write pediatrician in their phone number. If they have had a diagnosis or an evaluation that you will be adding to this application packet, then I would use that doctor's name there too. Number 15, if there's a court order, I don't know. 16, they are talking not about you and whether you get Social Security, Medicaid, Medicare. They're talking, does your child? Oftentimes, they do not get Social Security under 18. Sometimes they do. It's based on the parents' assets and income until 18. Once they turn 18, then their own assets and income would count. And most often they would then be able to qualify for Social Security on their own. But if they don't have it, you just put NA or 0. And then if they're on Medicaid, you would write that number and you sign and date it. Ta-da! That's the hardest one.
Debbie, we have a hand raised.
Hi, Kim.
I had a question really quick. Going back to number 14, for the doctors that we need to list, would you suggest just listing the doctor that knows the most? So like my son has Down syndrome. So would I list the doctor that knows the most about Down syndrome and not necessarily his doctors for like his sleep apnea or his immune system issues that he has?
That's kind of a judgment call. I would say do the pediatrician and another one or two. You can add,
Okay.
you can write underneath the box if you want.
So other medical issues that are kind of his top ones, list those doctors.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah. For sure, the ones that have done any type of testing
Okay.
that verify, again, you don't qualify because of Down syndrome. He would qualify because of intellectual disability.
Got it. Thank you.
Should we go on to the next? This is an easy one. This is a little one pager. It's the authorization form. And it is just, I kind of get silly with this one. It is just giving DSPD permission to get records from people. They're not going to do that no one needs any more work than they have to. So they often don't, even pursue anything on this, but they need to cover their buns. So you would put your child's name at the top and their date of birth. Anytime you add a piece of paper that you're adding to it, an addendum of any kind, put their name and their date of birth. The date of birth is going to help them find that record, especially if you add to their file after the fact that you've turned something in already and need to additional information. Make sure their date of birth is on there. And then you would check the second box, individual's legal authorized rep. You would check school district, Alpine, Granite, whatever you are. Check Voc Rehab if you have any connection with Voc Rehab, if you've applied for services. That would not typically be for the young ones, of course. Mental health, sometimes Wasatch Mental is in Utah County. They are ones who can do psychological evaluations, in which case I would list them. I would use the same doctors on physicians and psychologists that you used on this number 14 social history question, the same doctors. Then all those boxes, I'd check them all. I'm an open book. Knock yourself out. Look at anything you want to look at. That's the way I look at it. Voc testing, IEP, you bet. If they don't, I even check brain. There's no brain injury here, but I check it. Go ahead, look for it. And please include records. I put their birth date and their birth date plus 100 years. They laugh at me, but it works. That means I'm good to go. The purpose of this disclosure, check the box to establish eligibility for DSPD services. Expiration date, their birthday plus 100 years. I do it all the time. Been doing it that way forever. The individual's name is your child's name. Most of the time, they don't sign because they can't, or too young, or can't. The authorized representative is you. Print your name, and then I vote they made a mistake. On the last line, it's authorized personnel, sign your name. That's what I do. I think that's what they meant. All right, that's it. Easy, huh? They will, once you call the intake line, they will, and you send back form 1-1, then they will snail mail you, oftentimes, depends on the day. They will snail mail you the application, but you have it here. This is exactly what you will get. All those questions, that is included in the packet they will mail you. You don't need to wait. Just make that first phone call and get form 1-1 to get you in the system first. That's really important. Don't just suddenly send in an application that they don't know where it came from.
Okay,
So
I have a
make,
question about that too, the phone call.
yeah,
I made the phone call probably a year and a half, 2 years ago. Do I
Yep.
need to recall?
yeah,
and-
that's a good question. And sometimes folks forget if they called or not, or you called somebody and can't remember who. Just call them up and say, am I in the system? And oftentimes they say you are, so you don't need to do another one. You just call and ask them.
Okay,
Sometimes parts of an application have been sent in. And if once you start that first phone call intake, you have 90 days to finish. My goal is get it done this month or this week. It's not that bad. It's not that bad. And if you are struggling, give me a call or an email. I'd be happy to. Now, after you sent, I lost my train of thought. And there will be a little checklist that you will receive too, but I'll just tell you what you need in addition to. You will need an ICD-10 form. I believe, Sylvia, we have that right there. I would fill it out, put your doctor's name. Again, this is the doctor that knows your child's disability the most. The one who may have done a psychological evaluation. Sometimes we don't have one. You just have to do what you can do. Was it Kim whose child has Down syndrome, and they typically just use their pediatrician? Then put the pediatrician's name. I would fill as much of this out as you can. You may not want to do this one because it has Coulter Mott's name on it as the DSPD worker, and yours may not necessarily be Coulter's. So you would fill this out and just put this with the rest of your application. Don't send this separately to Coulter, because yours may be a different DSPD worker. I didn't actually notice that Coulter's name was on there, or I would have taken it off. So right where it says from, write your physician's name and address, phone number, then regarding your name of your child, their date of birth. Then, dear physician, I would have you write the physician's name in, and the next line, patient's name. The more you can fill it out, the better, because you're going to take this in to your doctor. You can email it, fax it. I didn't even make an appointment. I just said to the secretary or to the doctor's nurse, will you please have the doctor fill this out, and I'll come back and get it. I prefer to have it in my own hands, to include all together. I don't like to send one piece and then wait a week and then send DSPD another piece. I find it much better for you to send everything in together. And I would keep the copy. I would keep the copy. Should I say that again? I would definitely keep the copy. So this, and typically the doctor just writes the code, the ICD medical code, that if the diagnosis is kind of murky, I have had kind of given guidance to the doctor and said, we are applying to DSPD. The eligibility criteria is this, this, and this. So autism, doctor, hint, hint, is what will help him get services. And then hopefully the doctor would code in autism. But that's excuse me, usually it's obvious, but sometimes there's kind of in between things and you're not really sure. So we can talk about that. Kim, hi.
Quick question on that.
Yeah.
So, we just need the doctor to put in a code for the intellectual disability, like for my son's,
Correct.
okay, example. Okay, cool.
And then you get that back from him. So white out the part that says Coulter. Sorry, I didn't notice that. I've been giving them out.
So
that
there
way.
is a code for intellectual disability that they could write in there.
I believe so. I actually don't know what the code is, but if that's something I wanted to remind the doctor of, then I have written a cover letter just to say, we're applying, dear Dr. So-and-so, we're applying for services for my daughter. And you could even, if there's a question, you can talk to me, but she would qualify because of intellectual disability. So we're hoping that could correlate with the ICD-10 code that you will write down, hint, hint.
And this is a paper that has to be turned in with everything else.
Yes.
Okay.
On occasion, and it kind of depends on the worker you get, if your child has Down syndrome and you have a chromosomal test from birth, sometimes they call that good. So if this is a struggle, you could try that. Hi, Kim.
Oh, I'm good now. I guess
Okay. Kelly, did you have a question?
Yeah, I have two quick questions. One is I printed off all of the forms for this Zoom meeting, and one of them is the Form 1-1 request for determination.
Yeah, that's an example. Don't use that
Okay.
form. Yours will have to have a number. So when you make that call to the intake line, if you guys need it, I can give it to you again. It was on the first slide. They're really nice people. You don't put off that phone call. It's not a bad deal. I promise it. They're nice people.
Okay. And then I have one other quick question. Should we fill all of this out and get on the waiting list? Is it better to do that now? I just feel like we're going to get denied. That could be pessimism on my part, but is it better to do it feeling like you're going to be denied, or just what does somebody with a critical need that could potentially be denied by DSPD go for services?
I love that question. My personal thoughts are you'll never know if they qualify unless you try. If you have questions specifically about your child, about, well, they kind of this, they kind of that, you're not sure, you're welcome to give me a call and we can chat through it a little bit about there's no one size fits all, that's for sure. So if you want to give me a call and we can kind of chat through that. But if you're feeling like you should not apply because that would be detrimental to others that need the help more, I disagree, because being on the wait list will let the legislators know truly how many people need help. Right now there's 3,000-ish on the wait list. It should be more like 10,000. They might pay a little more attention to funding the waitlisters if the numbers are larger. And if you were to be qualified and get services, but you feel like at this point you're okay and you don't need to, just stay on the wait list and say, we're okay for now. I've had families do that, where they just get on the wait list. stay on the wait list. If you don't respond to their yearly letters or you don't update occasionally, you will be dropped off of the wait list and they may not even tell you. So you do need to be in contact with them over the years. The average wait is 5 years. The longest wait is 26 years. My record for helping a family is 7 months. So it depends on how proactive and what your needs are is the factor that will help you get services. If you feel like you're doing fine right now and they call you and say, we have service funding for services and you're just feeling like you're okay, you just say, you know, I'm okay right now and just keep me on the wait list. Did that answer your question?
Yes. Do you, no, I don't remember. Do you get put on the wait list by filling out all of the paperwork, or do you fill out all the paperwork, they approve you, and then put you on the wait list?
You will do these steps of making the intake call, Form 1-1. You send in the things that we're discussing now after you've made that first phone call. I know I'm stressing that, but it'll mess things up. Then there's additional information you have to send in. We didn't quite get to that. But after all of these components are sent into them, you are still not on the wait list until you receive what's called an NAQ. An NAQ is an over-the-phone interview by a DSPD intake worker. So during this whole process of applying, you have an intake worker. Once you are on the wait list, you will get a different worker, and that is a wait list worker. So they're kind of two separate little departments. Did that answer it?
Yes, thank you so much.
Oh, you bet. Linda, I don't know. Linda, did you have a question? Abigail, did you?
Yes, I did. Sorry.
Okay.
I couldn't get my mute off. My question was, if we had voc rehab services in a different state, but he doesn't have it right now, do I still mark voc rehab or not?
I would put it in and just write not currently. You could just add that as a little notation on the side. They
Okay.
love it when you are involved with voc rehab. That puts you up on the list.
Okay, yeah, because we did it in Washington, but we don't have it here because he currently got a job here that I helped him get. So that's why we didn't pursue voc rehab services
Yeah.
right now.
Yeah, I think in that case especially, I would write down that he did and maybe the location and phone number. Sometimes voc rehab does different surveys and things that might be helpful. But remember, if you say what an amazing child and they work and they're just fine, they're not going to get services.
Oh no, he's not. He's always holding on with one finger with his job. Let me tell you, every time I get a call from his boss, I'm like, is today the day?
You may want to consider having voc rehab come on board. And by the way, if you're on the wait list, you just get long-term job. It's called support work independence. It's not every minute they're on the job, but just to be on the wait list qualifies you for that. But you would probably need to have a VR case, and they would love you if you would say, well, we've already got a job, we just need some job coaching. And that will take the heat off of you.
Exactly. Sounds great. Thank you.
Abigail, did you have a question?
Yes, so we applied, we did this whole process 2 years ago. Is it okay if I go through the process again? I mean, I feel like you
No.
helped me know how to apply better.
Oh,
So is
no
it possible
problem.
to apply again?
Well, if I were you, Abigail, I'd call the intake line and say, I applied. I don't think we finished, or there could be missing documents, and they will tell you if you need to start all the way over, or if, gosh, we're just waiting for an evaluation, then
Well,
they would put you on the inactive list, definitely after 2 years. But you just say, can you reactivate me? I do it all the
Okay.
time. So if you
Okay.
kind of started and then you sort of, life happened and you had to take a step away for a year or two, I know how that is. Life happens, especially in our homes. You just say, can you please reactivate it?
Okay, well, I know the process completed because we got a letter saying that he qualifies. However, there are too many people on the wait list and he didn't make it on the wait list.
Well, that's not possible.
Oh,
I'd
really?
give them a call. Yeah. The
Okay,
wait list can be 1,000 people. There's no limit to the wait list.
weird. Okay, thanks.
Well, if you want to, oh gosh, I missed what your name was. Abigail, was it?
Abigail Harris, yeah.
You could take a screenshot of that letter, just send it to me.
Okay.
I won't mention your name, but I'll call them and say, what the heck?
Okay, thanks.
Megan, did you have a question?
Yeah, I might be going a little bit of ahead, but it also had to do with number 6 that you asked. So if my son is in the process of getting the evaluation from the school district, so he doesn't have an IEP yet, would it be better for me to wait until he has one to send this in? Or would I just send one in and then add that later?
So he might get an IEP, which would mean he probably hasn't had a psychological evaluation.
He has. He has an autism diagnosis.
Okay.
So, yeah.
I would do it now.
Okay, and just not worry about the IEP, and then I can add that.
Just let him know it's in progress.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you.
Hi, Jensen's.
Hi, it's Michelle. I just have a quick question. You said that this video is going to be recorded. How will we find it after if we want to share it with somebody?
We will post the video on the United Angels Foundation YouTube. We'll also post it. We'll post the link to that on unitedangels.org and on Facebook on our page.
Great, thank you.
We just have a couple little additional things to include. Hey, we're doing good though, right? We're just right at an hour. That's good. Nobody wants to spend longer than that. In addition to these authorization form, the social history, and the ICD-10, those paper ones, you will also need to scan the social security card, birth certificate, Medicaid card if they're on Medicaid. If they are receiving social security, if you can find it, the social security award letter, not you as parents, but as the child. If not, send in something that has the social security letterhead and your child's name. An award letter is what they hope for. But the biggest detriment to the application process is the psych eval. That is the one thing that holds it up. The psych eval often will give an IQ score, and IQ under 70 or below would qualify, although those with autism would have oftentimes a high IQ, in which case they would need autism testing. When they want current, and if they're under 7, I believe it's 7, it's developmental tests. They don't call them psychological evaluations at that age. So, and it can't be with just anybody. It has to be a medical doctor that does these evaluations. Now, the school does do psychological evaluations, and I would send that in. And if you have one from a doctor, send that in too. If you don't stop, send in the school one. And if you just don't have one from a doctor, because that's often the case, you would let DSPD know that you need help with that. And they would then put you on a list to help provide. They don't like it. So if it's just because you don't want to look for it, look for it, because it will really help them if they do. But if all you have is a school psych eval, then send that in. But a different one, if you have it, is even better. And when they say a recent one, they like one within the last 5 years. Now, I made a huge mistake for my daughter when junior high and high school wanted to test her. I said, it's going to be the same. There's not going to be a change. I don't want to put her through that. I don't want no testing. Wrong answer. I ended up having to spend $2,300 for testing 20 years ago. So don't make that mistake. If the school wants to test, say yes, please, because that's free testing. And if that works, that's great. But sometimes it doesn't. It depends what other documentation you have. But testing is probably the biggest hindrance to the application process. I would send in the IEP if they have one. And if you have appeared before a judge, I would send your guardianship papers. But medical diagnosis, any other records, don't copy every single paper you have. They're not going to look at it. Just think more of diagnoses. If you feel particularly attached to a medical record and you just want them to know it, then send it in. But don't overdo it with every single blood test on it. They're not going to, they don't do that. I mean, send the most significant in. That's what goes in. Did Linda, did you have a question?
Yeah, my brother's 24, so his last eval is way old from high school. So what do I do about that?
I would send it in and let them know I don't have any other ones. Can you help me with that? And they hire, I would send in what you've got, because sometimes they can pay a consultant to look over all the old ones. If he has applied to Social Security.
Yeah, he's on Social Security disability as an adult child.
Okay, so based on a parent's record. So
yeah,
did he go to the Disability Determination Service through Social Security?
Yes.
They then tested him. So the DDS, Disability Determination Service, tested him. But if it's been a while, it's a little tricky to get that out of Social Security. I do have forms, but it's an uphill battle. I would send in what you've got.
Okay.
And let them know that's all you've got. Can you help me with a consult, looking over and consulting with? They won't like it, but what do? You can only get you can
right.
only go so far.
We had services in Washington just like this, but it was called something different. But when we moved to Utah, we lost those services.
Yeah, there's a few bills out there to help make this more uniform between states. I hope that works, because it is a completely different system, state to state.
Completely, you're totally right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
They're all called Medicaid waivers. Medicaid pays for it, but you don't have to be on Medicaid to apply. wave a magic wand and you're on. If you're accepted. I don't know how, I even said that in front of DSPD and they nodded their heads. Yeah, that's kind of what it is.
So is
Yeah.
an NAQ interview, is that something to be scared about? or-
No, just it's nothing you have to prepare for unless you want to just kind of think through what their deficits are. And sometimes I have noticed families say, oh, we're fine. Oh, he's such a good boy or he's such a good girl. That's wonderful. But think of how things are different from an average individual their age. What's different? That will help you think of the deficits. So don't say how wonderful it is. You won't get services. I haven't heard of anyone complain about the NAQ. I haven't got a list of the questions. I used to have them, but they changed it about 2 years ago. It used to be called an ICAP. By the way, no one knows what the what the acronym stands for. I'll even ask them, what's NAQ stand for? I don't know. It's an over the phone interview. So don't know what it means.
So for my daughter, I'm more concerned about her social and getting work and just not being in her room all day. Is that something that they would say she doesn't need services for that? Like,
I'd be a little careful
with that. Okay.
they're not, yeah, I'd be a little careful. That's not very dramatic because
Yeah.
I have a lot of average 22-year-olds who don't want to come out of the house either.
Yeah.
So give me a call at ATEC and we can beat the bushes on that one.
Okay.
Or my cheat sheet might help you. You have a binder, don't you?
I actually saw I have your cheat sheet.
Okay.
Yeah. And I also, on the form 1-1, I think you asked me to give that to you because you were going to give it to Callie. Is that still something that I can do?
I don't have the records of what I've done on your case, but at the office I do.
Yeah.
So off the top of my head, if you gave it to me, I sent it in.
No,
But
I haven't given it to you. So I was just wondering if I still can.
You can scan and email it in. If you need help with that, you give me a call.
Okay.
Or send it with Aaliyah, right?
Yeah.
I just impressed myself. Send it to school with her and I will make sure it gets to me though.
Yeah.
And I'll email it in for you if you'd like.
Okay.
Debbie, I have a question.
Yes.
So my daughter has been on the wait list for 3 years. Note to self, do it as young as you possibly can because a wait list is forever. I was one of those that thought, oh, I really don't need any help. I should wait and apply when I actually need help. So now she's aging out of the school district and I have to work and I can't leave her home all day. And day programs are astronomically expensive. And so I'm in a situation where now my needs have changed dramatically.
I got your answer. You will never get services if you don't stay in touch with your wait list worker. If you don't know who it is, call the intake line and say, who's my wait list worker? And get her email. I've got this great if you guys haven't chatted with me and got my transition to adulthood binder, especially those of you who have older children, I have lots to say about that. You call in and there are actually criteria that will move you up on the wait list. And the squeaky wheel gets the services, but it doesn't help to call and whine. So I have a list of what actually moves them up on the list. I could read it off to you, but it's in my binder. So a consult with the binder would do a little more for you, so that what you say will actually do some good in moving her up.
Well, a year or so ago, I got a phone call, maybe it was, yeah. And they called and they said, does you still want her to be on the wait list? Like, why would I have gone through all this paperwork if I wanted to be dropped off? They literally
Right.
tried to talk me off the wait list, and it made me kind of mad. So
They did that a little more than a year ago. They had to hire a whole bunch of people. They did the whole wait list, got that same phone call. And they just wanted to reevaluate where you are on the list, give you another number. So the numbers kind of all changed of where you are. And you can ask, by the way, you can ask what your number is.
okay, I need to do that because it's, first
It
of
would-
all, the wait list number to call in the number when the school helped me do this. So when we called in, we were literally on hold for 45 minutes. When I called in myself, I was on hold for 45 minutes.
Who did you call?
I don't know, but literally, like, it was 3 years ago because she got
You
approved.
need my binder. You
I-
need my binder because you want to keep these agencies, who you talk to, what they said, and what you need to do next, all in one little spot. And I got it in the binder. So you don't have, it can lift the weight of you worrying about it if you've got it down, and it's all in the binder. So you just make a little pencil scratch. Nobody's going to even read it but you, but it will help relieve the stress so much. You are more than welcome to email me, and I'll get you this binder and I'll talk you through how to move that name up on the list pronto. I would do it today, no, tomorrow.
I will.
Everyone needs your binder, Debbie.
Yes.
It's my blood, sweat, and tears, I'll tell you that.
Otherwise, literally, for those of you who have young children, it's really super frustrating because you think, oh, I'll wait till I need help. And then when you need help,
No.
sorry, they're kind of almost rude to you. And so I haven't been terribly impressed with, I mean, it worked out. We got approved. We're on the wait list, but literally, I don't know whether do you call regularly or what, but
Yes,
it
you
isn't
do. I
bad.
was on the wait list for 5 years, and I had a DSPD friend, nurse, said, Debbie, are you calling and updating about changes? And again, I have in the binder, sorry, a list of what those criterias are that will move them up instead of just whining. You might as well make it something that will help move them up. When I started doing that, anytime anything happened, but I put on my calendar every 2 months, call DSPD, every 2 months, call DSPD. I had to write down what I complained about because I'd forget. So you don't want to say the same thing. And I was on in 6.5 months.
Oh, good. Okay. I'm going to
Now, it all depends on the legislators and what funding they decide. Last year, there was zero, nobody, unless someone moved or passed away or just didn't want services anymore. That was the only number of people that came off the list. But several years ago, couple years ago, a lot of people, well, tons of ATEC students came off of the wait list, and they have services before they left the school. So it does work. I've been doing it for 15 years, and being proactive and kind, that's actually my last slide. Be proactive and kind will get you eventually. Do try to email and maybe follow up with a call, or call and follow up with an email. I was actually in their office when a little ding came up on the computer, and she goes, oh, an email, that means I can't ignore it. And I went, oh, guess it's good to email then. So it's documentation that you call. When you do call in to update and leaving the school system is a very important thing to update them about. You want to say, please note this in their file. Will you please document this in their file? So you're requesting them. A phone call can be ignored, an email can't.
Do we have the email in that documentation?
You would need to call the intake line and ask who your wait list worker is. There are many.
Okay,
So I don't know who your wait list worker is.
neither do I. I'll have to call.
They've changed over a couple years, so. Kelly, did you have a question?
Yeah, for those of us looking at the transition, that sort of adulthood transition, could you bullet point just what that kind of looks like?
Oh,
Or-
sure. You bet. It's all in the binder though. You really will want it. You would want to, we're getting near the age of 18, I'm assuming. But DSPD can be done at birth, and I would do it at birth. If you know what the diagnosis is anyway, I would do DSPD regardless. But when they get closer to the transition age, I suggest, besides DSPD, doing Social Security first, because that preassumes eligibility for everything else. So if Social Security has deemed them disabled, it's a lot harder for the other agencies and organizations to say, I don't think so. So I would start, and I have all the directions on how to do it, who to call, what to say, watch out for, be careful
So
of.
we already have SSI
Okay.
established, been through
Then
that circus.
Medicaid, it wasn't a circus, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
I'm sorry. I'm glad you're done. I hope you're getting 794, which is the maximum. If you're not, you need to charge rent. And I have rental agreements in the binder because of in-kind support maintenance. Then Medicaid would be another next step. If your child is on Social Security, you do have to apply, but I have an easy schmeezy way to do it, so you don't have to stand in line at the Department of Workforce Services. So let me know and I can get you the binder and you can follow those. Kind of depends on where you live though too. Then DSPD, Voc Rehab would be another next step, giving them something to do during the day. If you can't imagine that your child could do that, that's something we can chat about. My original position in this world of disabilities was a job developer, and that was awesome. And I fully believe in working if possible. I think I can find anyone with a pulse a job. So, but you know, there's exceptions. Guardianship is another one. It's a pretty easy thing right now. If they're 18, it's all on a program that I'll give you information on, because that's a whole nother webinar, but it is easier now and cheaper now than ever before. You can literally get it done for $55. I did not know that. I spent thousands. You don't need to, especially during COVID. You don't even have to go to the courthouse. It's all virtual. But let me know and I'll get you the information.
And
then
all
of
of your
course,
information is available where?
from me. Yeah, I like to, the binders are great, but I suggest strongly that we set up an appointment. I will get that binder to you either through mail, or if you're locally, I will drop it to your doorstep. And then you will promise me that we will make an appointment to go over it. It will do you no good without a little explanation. It's my own little creation. It's the way I wish I would have known about it when I was going through this with my daughter. It was all the questions I had, and I've been doing this a long time, and it changes. I've made 10, 12 changes to this binder every year because things, contacts, you name it, they differ. So if you want a binder with a promise of we'll have it could take, it depends how many questions you have, maybe an hour. I've had it as long as 3 hours. If that's what your need is, I will make sure that you come away feeling okay about it.
And we just put up a slide that has Debbie's email address. So it's very easy, debbie@unitedangels.org. And this is a free service to our member families to have this transition binder, the magic binder, delivered to you. And this really thorough consultation. And again, this is not just a one-time Debbie meets with you once, but there's follow-up and really making sure that you're supported through this process.
Thanks, everybody. If there's no more questions, just give me an email and we'll knock through it. I hope you found this helpful and that you're getting close to sending this in. That was the point, is to take the fear of finishing it away and check, you're going to feel awesome getting that in the mail and you're done. That will be fantastic.
Thank you so
Okay,
much.
thank you.
You bet.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're an angel, Deb.